Recently, the popular Roblox survival game known as Forsaken has been facing a lot of drama recently, due to the recent controversy regarding the lead developer of the game, SoulDrivenLove. Now, Soul has been facing a ton of harassment due to people bringing up her past alias, known as robotic developer. Ever since people have dug up this old alias and the things that Soul did at the time, she has been harassed online, then doxxed, which led to her being swatted in real life with no justified rhyme or reason, and a bunch more. This video details the harassment the developer of Forsaken has received, since she has been revealed to being known prior as robotic developer, as well as more of the recent information surrounding the new drama of Forsaken and SoulDrivenLove. So I suggest watching this video the entire way through, so that you'll be completely filled in on what's exactly been going on with Forsaken. This video does dive into some pretty disturbing topics, so like always, viewer discretion is heavily advised. But anyways, if you haven't already watched my last video about the Forsaken drama, which a lot of you have, then well, SoulDrivenLove, or robotic developer at the time, was the former owner of a Roblox game known as Friday Night Bloxen, and at this time back in 2020, she was just a young teenager being around 14 years old. And during this, Soul has been involved in some controversy, including having allegations made against them for things like apparently faking her own mother's death, doxing people, making fake threats, and stuff like that. And she has been exposed for these things at the time, but a lot of these things aren't necessarily true whatsoever. But more on this later. Anyways, robotic developer as a name became more irrelevant as the days went on after that drama, and sometime after this, SoulDrivenLove came into the picture. Obviously, as you may know, she would go on to be the lead developer of Forsaken, and basically leaving the robotic developer title completely in the dust, or at least that was until people began catching on about Soul's past. Because as of sometime around later of last year, people started to catch on about Soul's former self, regardless of these allegations being released years prior. This would result in countless people who are out to expose and tarnish her career in any way possible, even if Soul did make an apology, which is another thing I like to mention, as she did make a full apology within the Damnation developer team Discord server, which states, "It took me so long to realize how awful of a person I've become back when I was still under that name, and when that realization struck, it felt like my entire world shattered instantaneously. I started struggling to wake up every morning even if it was just a regular bland and boring day prior. It eventually got to a point where I found myself standing on the edge of life and death, so close to taking my life out of guilt because I was so deep into the delusion that there was no other way out of my misery. But then SoulDrivenLove came into the world, and that instantly became my lifeline. It was my one and only chance to start anew and do all of the things I wish I would have done differently hadn't I been under that influence of those I surrounded myself with. It felt so freeing to be able to act as I've always wanted to act without anyone belittling me for it, even if I knew that my mask wouldn't be able to stay on forever. I finally lived without waking up to more people hating me for whatever crazy thing happened the night before, without being doxxed, swatted, assaulted IRL, sent bomb threats, and so much worse. It was and still is perfect." Now, this last portion of this response is rather important to the current drama surrounding the situation, as yes, Soul was indeed doxxed and swatted in real life. But first, I just want to go ahead and mention how the majority of the old allegations against Soul's former alias are actually false. For example, one that I've talked about in my previous video, which involved Soul sending a video containing CP on Discord and her owning such material. Well, as it's been brought to my attention by YouTuber Parlo, this had actually been debunked. Soul states here, "Yeah, the person in that screenshot just straight up wasn't me. The context that I can remember behind it is that it was someone who I used to know, who went by Fungus, impersonating me. They were similarly a disturbed child, who was around 15 years old at the time, but he was far more disturbed than I was. So much so to the point where he's actually in jail right now for assaulting someone." So yeah, according to Soul, the person behind the screenshot was an impersonator, and in fact the person who is named Fungus that apparently did such is currently in jail for something pretty vile and deplorable, that being assault. And based off the history of Fungus's actions, it's no doubt that they will most likely send CP. And as of the screenshots of Soul or Robo at the time claiming that they own such material, this is what Soul herself had to say about it.
In terms of like the thing where it's like me saying I have like or something, that's 100% just an edgy joke. I've never had in my life. I don't really know what else I could say about it. It's just a really stupid comment I made when I was really little. So yeah.
And regarding the other screenshots that are used against you, for example, I'll post my here in a bit. That's of course just like edgy teenage humor that a lot of people have made beforehand as well, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm not saying I'm like proud of it or anything. I don't think it's like a good thing to say that kind of stuff. I think that's just stupid and edgy, if anything. But like, it's not something I would say again today, because again, I was like 12, 13, 14.
Now this allegation is most likely not true at all. Of course, those edgy jokes shouldn't go off without being criticized, but we are way past these screenshots now, and as we have already known, Soul has already apologized and taken accountability for this. Now as for the allegation of her doxing people, or supporting people being doxed, one screenshot in particular that has been around for a bit of Soul praising someone having their private information leaked was completely taken out of context. The well-known image only shows Soul asking, "Not so funny when you're the one being doxed, now is it?" But however, the full uncropped image continues with, "But whatever, I'm not gonna let my vendetta against you convince me that you deserve what happened. Here's some tips I used back when the same situation happened to me. The one you laughed at." This screenshot just proves that Soul had no ill intentions whatsoever, and for this screenshot that has also been used against her, including her sending someone's private information within her DMs, this is what she had to say about it.
I guess another situation to bring up is this screenshot, which is maliciously taken out of context regarding you, the screenshots. Could you give some background to that?
Okay, yeah, so I'm not going to say that this was like an okay thing to do. I'm not going to say it's like not as bad as it looks, because it is pretty bad. I was still threatening someone with their own personal information. However, a lot of people say that this is me going out and spreading someone's personal information and like publicizing it, like publishing it onto public sites. I never did that. I never made this person's information public. I never spread it around. I never shared it with anyone I knew. I never went out and actively them or anything like that. I only really collected some small bits about them and sent it back to them, in which they told me that information themselves. So it's kind of like if someone were to tell you like, "Hey, my name is XYZ," and then I went later on and said, "Hey, your name is XYZ." It's definitely in a very bad manner, and I'm not saying it was like a good thing for me to do that whatsoever, but it's not. I never publicized this guy's information, and he's fine. We're friends now even, so we're both chill. We're not like against each other. We're not enemies or anything like that. So
you both have like ended the drama. You're both good friends now, and people who are using this don't understand like the full context of the situation, and both of you just wish to move on as well, right?
Yeah.
So going off of Soul's explanation in the screenshots provided, we can clearly see that her and the person who she sent that message to in DMs are on good terms now. And at the time when this happened, according to Soul, the information was never publicly leaked. And for the allegation of her committing credit card fraud, Soul first claims publicly that it was all just a lie, and that she only stole someone's lunch money, and then Soul explains on this further. Here's a clip.
The credit card fraud, oh no.
God.
One of the main things that people try and use is a gotcha point. Would you like to give some background context to that as well? And also what you meant by, because a lot of people try and overthink it when you say that they saw a lot of bad things, credit card fraud being one on your computer. So would you like to give some context to that?
Okay, yeah, so this entire thing is just me stealing someone's lunch money. Like, okay, so I know in the image it shows me saying like, "Hey, I was exiled into my room because my parents found that I had ruined someone's life via credit card fraud, blah blah blah," stuff like that. But that was just me lying, like straight up. Same with the lot of bad things on my computer, that was also just me lying. They never really looked into my computer, I just made all that up because I was a kid who wanted attention from others. I'm not saying that's a cool thing either. I know I'm saying a lot about this, like, the stuff I did being really bad, but like, it's not as bad as people are painting it out to be, and I'm really annoyed by that fact. Just to give like more background on like what I meant by stealing someone's lunch money, I used to have this like school friend who ended up treating me really poorly because they found that I liked making Roblox games online, and they would make fun of me, they would like go online and spread my information around, they would try and poke fun at me in school. They would do a lot of like really rude stuff. They even got a picture of my dad's credit card once, which is really annoying. But the worst I ever did back is I literally just stole their lunch money. That was it. Like, I didn't go commit credit card fraud. I didn't go do like cyber crimes or whatever. I just stole their lunch money. That was it. Just to mention it again, my parents never looked into my computer. They never saw anything bad. That was just me lying again because I wanted attention from people who were as bad as I used to be.
Now for a more well-known claim that has been used against her, that of which being she faked her own mother's death. Well, this turned out to be twisted to seem worse than it actually was.
So there was this period of time in my life where my mom was in the hospital. It was about like a month long, and my dad started a lot because of it. I started feeling like because of it. It was just generally a really awful time. And there was this guy who called from the hospital, said that things weren't really looking good. They said that things are probably not going to be okay on her end. However, thank God they were. But after that, me and my dad started freaking out way more. Things were really, really bad. And I eventually had a time where I would go online, say, oh, my mom's dead, because I was just that freaked out about it. And thank God she wasn't. She ended up okay. We're all happy in our family now. However, I still did like lie about her, and I didn't really know how to come back from that because a lot of people were already feeling way too empathetic and like just kind of worried about how I was doing because of what happened with my mother. However, it never actually happened to her, thank God. I had no idea what to do about it. However, I eventually came clean from it one day. Like, I think it was sometime in 2022 when I told people about how it was just me lying about it. And they understood. However, it's still something that I feel awful about, and I don't really hold it in any good light whatsoever. I think that it was an awful situation of mine. I think I should have been much more patient and understanding, and I shouldn't have really lied about something that serious, because I know that there are people out there who have had those things happen to them, and it's awful. I feel awful for them. But yeah, there's not much I could really say about it. It was just me being really dumb and overreacting at the time.
Honestly, even if Soul kind of, I guess, lied about her own mother passing away, she clearly has taken accountability from it numerous times, and I don't think she should continuously be called out for it over and over. Now, one last allegation I'd like to cover includes Soul being in a Roblox condo game and how she owns a game pass from it, and this is actually true. As yes, Soul was involved with a condo game back in 2024. Of course, since this action has taken place more recently, unlike the other ones, people begin to call her out for this a lot. But here's Soul's explanation on the matter. It states, TLDR, there was this person named Patchy that I dated in late 2023 to early 2024. Out of my desperation to be with someone who'd give me attention at the time, something I've always struggled with ever since I was a kid, and they would always pressure me into doing a bunch of stuff that I've always been uncomfortable with while we were together. While we were together, I was 16 and they were 18. I was nearly 17 by the time we broke up though. They always frequently joined Roblox condos before we got together, and I only ever found out about this a few months into being with them. However, I never cut ties with them for that, only because they would always make that kind of stuff out to be something that seems so much more less serious than what it actually was. It was only until after we broke up that I cut off all of that behavior and went back in check for the most part with my personal life. Admittedly, I did have time shortly after the breakup where I'd relapse into the behavior they coerced me into, but it was very short-lived and I was mostly back on my feet by like April 2024. But yeah, I have went into a Roblox condo with them before out of pressure and desperation, and it's not something I look back on fondly. A lot of my active resentment towards that gross part of the Roblox community stems specifically from my awful interactions with Patchy and the really gross feelings that they've left me with. I even started utilizing Ruben Sim's anti-condo bot to completely wipe my game clean of those kinds of people because I want nothing to do with any of them. So basically, according to Soul, she had been heavily influenced by the wrong people into being involved with Roblox condos. Sure, this behavior is weird and strange as it is, but yet there isn't any predatory behavior being shown here, and ever since that incident, like she said so herself, she hasn't been involved with any of those condos ever since she last relapsed, and she has also admitted and taken accountability for this, as well as using Ruben Sim's anti-condo bot on Discord according to her. So really, this is nothing that deserves what Soul has been through, and honestly, what I'll be looking into in just a second will showcase all the terrible and traumatizing events she has experienced. But I want to quickly say that I'm aware Soul has made some decently bad choices in the past in years such as 2021 with messages like this, and I'm not saying I condone any of the things she did do, I'm just saying the amount of harassment she faced due to these actions is unfair and unjustified in my opinion. But as you all have been probably waiting for, let's talk about her traumatic experiences, and remember, viewer discretion is advised as I'm about to dive into some pretty disturbing topics. Now let's start with the lighter stuff, but trust me as it gets so much worse. Anyways, there was a person named Isabel who used to be in a relationship with Soul for a short amount of time, and even worked with Soul, or robotic developer at the time, on the Friday Night Boxing game. But eventually, this person got fired from being a helper on the game prior to this, and this resulted in countless attempts of them attacking Soul, like doing things such as posting her public information, poking fun at a very traumatic experience in her life when she was younger, and even running a burner Twitter account to harass her continually. Now, on this account, Isabel would try to accuse Soul of owning CP. Now, here's her explanation on Isabel as well as the allegations they had made against her.
I'd like to give like some background context to like Isaiah's history of like lying and manipulating the truth and some of the things they've done as well, such as I believe,
Yeah, so I used to know Isabel back when I was little. We used to work on Friday Night Boxing together, which is one of my older games, and I eventually had to kick them off the team because they were just insanely controversial and wouldn't stop saying all these like weird homophobic comments despite being gay themselves. They got really upset after they were kicked, so they started going on this like huge hate parade on my name and spreading all this like weird information about me that wasn't true whatsoever. They started saying stuff about me, sharing about me, having images of like on my Discord server somewhere. However, none of that was true. I've been in several GCs with my friends and they say that I've sent like videos. Those also aren't true at all. I'm still in contact with some of the devs that they claim have seen that content, and they can attest that they've never seen me post anything like that whatsoever. It's just really weird generally. I know that they also have a pretty awkward past themselves with being around like CZ Red. However, I can't really add on to that because I'm not well versed on it. I just know that they were in contact for much longer than they ever should have, especially since they knew that CZ Red was a so just kind of odd.
And they also have a history of sharing illicit content as well, which...
Yeah, they share a lot of weird stuff about themselves. I remember in FNB they used to do that actually with random people. They would show like pictures of themselves in very manners, and it was just very, very, very weird.
A lot of this is just seeming to be like a disgruntled person trying to unearth or create fake information just to spite you and to try and get like revenge or...
So according to Soul's explanation, the claims that Isabel was making aren't confirmed to be true. In fact, this person has had a pretty bad track record themselves, shown in these images here. So, in my opinion, Isabel's claims aren't credible in the slightest. Now, unlike this particular part of Soul's experience of her abuse, these next things I'm going to mention are far more dramatic. In a now privated Google document made by her, she details how 2019 was a really bad year for her, and especially for her mental health. She states how her dog passed away, which was then followed by some of her peers convincing her to jump off the roof of her old house, which caused her legs to be broken and her being taken to the hospital, which was also followed by the same people pressuring and blackmailing her, then eventually leaking her personal information online. Then later on in the same year, mind you, she was SA'd by her own middle school teacher. Here's a clip of Soul showing how this person is still not in jail to this very day.
Salted's also crazy. I'm gonna pull it up again of my awesome teacher who's not arrested whatsoever. This guy. This is the person who me when I was little. Pretty cool. Teacher charged of under age 16, prosecutor says. He's not arrested, by the way. Like, at all. Hang on, wait. Let me pull it up. Okay. That's his full name. I don't care about revealing it to the world. This guy's... I'll see his latest post. This is 14 hours ago. So he's out there. He's not in jail. Not arrested whatsoever. 15 hours ago. Pretty cool. I love America, dude. This is so cool.
Now, as a result of all of this, only at the age of just 12 years old, Soul started becoming more stable as a trauma response, but eventually, she claims to have been grouped 3 times by 3 separate people. For example, a user named Yedlex was 18 years old, messaging Soul who they thought to have been 14 years old when they were actually only 12. Even if they were 13, it doesn't make it any better at all considering Yedlex's intentions. The majority of these people who messed with her were in the community of the Roblox game known as Reasons to Die. Here's her experience within the community, according to her.
I used to be in this community called Reason to Die, and there were a lot of awful people in there. Like, it was mixed with a bunch of kids and adults at the same time, and a few of them, notably Yedlex and Egg, were... and they're the people who actually me as well. There's a lot of stuff that Yedlex did to me. They were 18 while I was just... or barely even... and then there's Egg, and they me when I was just barely... and they were, I think, 17 at the time. I used to be involved in a lot of different cases, with a bunch of different people who are way, way older than me, and they all indoctrinated me into a lot of awful things back then because I just wanted a place to fit in, and I thought that the outlets around me were people that I could trust because they were older and more mature and all that. And they definitely weren't. They were really bad. They were all degenerates who had nothing else going on in their lives other than to be homophobic, transphobic, etc. And they got me into all their awful things when I was little, and it just kind of sucks.
Now, this so far is truly disgusting, and that's not even all, as Soul explains in a private document that she was literally swatted for no justifiable reason in the slightest. She has even shown a real image of an officer in her house. Soul touches more on this in this clip here.
Do you want to give some background to some of the harassment attempts that people have tried to use against you? For example, when they've tried to call the police to your house or even made like a towards your school.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot about that. So I think the harassment first started back in maybe very early 2022 when I was first exposed for being a really stupid child. It just kind of continued on from that point. People used the fact that I was doing dumb things as a kid as like a way to segue their way into my life through harassing me, stalking me, sending my school and my dad's office, my school's location, calling the office on my school, calling the cops and telling them to go to my house, just like a lot of other awful like that. I've had my information published on so many different sites. I've had Twitter accounts made of me saying my dead name, my address, my face, and pinning like a bunch of different awful, nasty to their page. There's a lot of bad that happened, and it all stems from me just being an annoying, dumb, awful kid. And I'm not gonna say that the things I did were fine and that I shouldn't be receiving criticism for it, but I don't really think it warrants that level of harassment, that level of like swatting, all those awful things happening to someone because of the things that they did when they weren't even 14.
Regarding the swatting attempt, when the police were there with like actual, how many times has that happened?
That's happened at least 3 times now. There was a 4th time where the SWAT team did rush in, but they didn't like aim their at my family. They just kind of burst down my door and scanned my room for like and nothing wasn't there. So it was just kind of annoying.
Like malicious actors were consistently telling the police that there were like in your house.
Yeah, there was like one time where they said there was and there was another where they said they had like 2 of the times they said they had on my computer or like in my room. Another time they said that I was going to like my family when I got home, and I was already home, so it was just very odd. It was really weird. And the cases that they were all there for is just stupid in my opinion.
This harassment that Soul has faced is truly unfair, even if she did do some criticizable things back then. Like, no one truly deserves what she has gone through, and I most certainly wouldn't wish it on anybody, not even my worst enemy. And as of current times, a few days ago at the time of recording this, aka Soul's birthday, she released a message on her Discord server, with this specific part stating, "Wherever the future takes us after this message gets posted is beyond me. Admittedly, I don't know what'll happen to Forsaken. I don't know if we're actually gonna be okay, like I always proclaim that we'll be. I don't know if I'll be okay." There's been too much that's went on in the past 2 days alone for me to ever be able to fully recover from it mentally. As always, I'll try to push through and to do the right thing, because I, no matter how imperfect I am, still want to set as good of an example as I can for the young teens here who don't know how complicated the world is yet. SoulDrivenLove has faced so much trauma in their life. Even if Soul made some unprofessional choices a few years ago, the things she did do don't deserve what she has gone through, and as of now, Soul's Twitter page is wiped clean, as she will be stepping away from the internet for the time being. As for Forsaken, there's no telling what will happen to the future of the game, but I hope that one day things will eventually turn around for the better, and especially for Soul. Anyways, if you'll be interested in more of my content, be sure to watch this video on the screen. Anyways, that's enough of me talking about the Forsaken drama, so I'll see ya.